Hello, welcome back to HunterTuned. Today I'm at the shop working on the CRV again, and I actually just got back from the junkyard and ended up picking up a viscous coupler from a Land Rover Discovery. It was like a 2002 Land Rover. There was a Range Rover there as well, like an 04 Range Rover, and it had the same viscous coupler on the drive shaft. And I ended up picking one of those up for the CRV because we actually, in the last video, we welded the clutch plates in the differential, so now the rear end gets power whenever the front end has power. So normally these cars have a system where the front wheels need to spin in order to engage the rear wheels, and we deleted that pretty much, so it's a full-time four-wheel drive setup now. But the problem with that is there's no give in the center of the drive shaft, and there needs to be, because I don't know exactly why it needs to happen, but I think the gearing might be slightly different between front and rear. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe it's not different front and rear. If you guys know if the gearing is different from front to rear on this vehicle, let me know. I don't know if it is or not. I had it up on the lift and I was just letting it idle in first gear, and I was counting the revolutions of the tire in the back and then counting the revolutions in the front, and the rear was definitely slower than the front. So I don't know exactly the math if the gearing is 100% different, and if you guys do know, leave it down in the comments and let me know what the actual ratios are between front and rear. But nonetheless, we're going to show you guys how the four-wheel drive system works as is without the viscous coupler, and then I'm going to be adding in the viscous coupler, but it's probably going to be a few-day project because I don't know how to do it and I've never done it. There is a bunch of good YouTube videos out there. SP Tuning Pirates Garage, I think, is his YouTube channel. He does a couple of these viscous coupler deals, and yeah, but as you guys can see here in the shop, there is black marks. 1, 2, 3, 4 black marks on the concrete. So it could never do that before. The rear end would never engage fast enough in order for the rear to actually spin like that. So now whenever you dump the clutch, the rear wheels definitely have power. Another thing we could do for the time being is just rip the front axles out and run axle stubs in the front axles there, and then that would pretty much in turn make the vehicle rear wheel drive, which would be kind of cool to drive it around like that for now. Or just remove the drive shaft completely from the rear and just run it front wheel drive for now until we figure out how we're gonna add this viscous coupler. But another reason I wanted to talk to you guys today about the CRV again is because I just ordered some stuff for it. I have some parts coming, turbo parts, and I have this intercooler laying around. This intercooler is really beat up and it's bent, but it doesn't leak. So I have an intercooler here, and I have an intercooler piping kit as well. So I'm going to be using this intercooler and piping kit, and we're going to be turboing the CRV. So I know we've been talking about this for a little while, but now I'm finally going to be doing it. I finally bucked up and bought the expensive part of the process here, which is the turbo. And of course, you guys know we only run VS Racing turbos here, and the VS Racing turbos just have not let me down ever. So we're going to run a VS Racing turbo on this guy, and I sized one pretty properly for this thing to just make gobs of torque and mid-range power, and we're going to keep it bone stock. But first, we want to make sure that this engine is healthy enough in order to take boost. So a couple steps, what I do normally is I just kind of go over the vehicle, make sure that this thing is going to be good enough to get a turbo, and if it is good enough, we're going to put the turbo on it. So I did a compression test on the engine last night, and it came back perfect. I think every cylinder was right around 130, and it was within like 5% variance between every cylinder. So we know that the bottom end of the motor is strong. This motor does not burn any oil. It does seep a little oil out of the valve cover, I think, but no big deal. That's not too big of a deal. I also just made sure like the car doesn't have any bad head gasket or anything like that, so like it doesn't use any coolant, the heat works good, all that kind of stuff. So we know that is good to go. But like I said, this is a bone stock B20 end, B20, I think it's a Z. I don't even know what the fuck's in this thing. I don't know. It's a B20. B20B or B20Z, I don't exactly remember what the fuck's in this thing. It's a B20. It's gonna crack sleeves. whatever. Yeah, we're gonna send it stock engine, and all we're gonna do is put ARP head studs in it, one at a time without pulling the cylinder head. I'm gonna do that in a totally separate video, but that's kind of the plans for the CRV. I know the compression's good, I know the engine doesn't burn oil, so that is like the first order of business, because a lot of times guys will blame like, hey, B20s suck, or B20s are garbage, when really they have the motor's already hurt, you know what I mean, before they put a turbo on it. So we're just making sure the engine is good before we put a turbo on it, so we have no excuses later when it blows up and cracks the sleeve, which we all know it will. But we're gonna push this engine pretty damn hard. I wanna send it to the moon. Honestly, stock bottom end, stock head, stock everything. And I don't see a problem with like 15 pounds of boost on ethanol. Any higher than that, it might break, but I'm thinking 15 pounds on ethanol. This thing's gonna be so much fun, especially on the snow and on the lake. Studded tires, this thing is gonna be a monster drag racing on the lake. That's the goal. I think it's gonna be really fun. So anyways, just wanted to update you guys on that and just show you kind of how I go through and make sure a car is healthy enough to get a turbo. And yeah, all the plugs look good. None of them are like oily or anything like that. So that is another good indicator that everything is good with the motor. So yeah, I'm gonna throw the spark plugs back in this thing and show you guys kind of how the CRV drives, and show you what how it is as is without the clutch pump system installed, and now it's welded. So I'm gonna show you how it is.
Ooh. That sounds good. Okay, he only gets one of those.
I think one of my spark plug wires isn't really hooked up, because it's got some misfiring going on right now, because I pulled the plugs and one of the wires was like broken, and I just shoved it back on hoping it was going to work. I don't think it is. But anyways, we are driving down the road right now, guys, and there's not much you can really notice with the welded clutch pack just driving down the road normally. Obviously when you launch the car, it hooks up, and this car doesn't have enough power to really even launch, unless I dumped it a lot higher. But then I'm like, I don't know, I'd probably just blow through the clutch before it would spin the tires. So hence why we're getting a turbo. But anyways, driving it down the road, can't really notice much of anything really until you turn a corner. Then the front and rear start to fight each other. And I'm gonna show you that right now. All right, guys, so we just got back from testing out the CRV, or showing you guys what it was doing. Now I have it up on the lift, and I pulled the drive shaft out of it because I wanted to show you guys the dilemma that we are having and how we need to incorporate this viscous coupler into the drive line of the CRV. Number one issue that I'm already seeing with putting this viscous coupler in is the exhaust. Is going to probably be an issue because it sits very close to the drive shaft factory, and like up through here it fits really tight as well right there. So we're gonna have to figure something out with that, and I don't know if there is a way that I can incorporate the viscous coupler without using the support bearings that come with this drive shaft setup stock. So SP Tuning, when they did this on the CRX that he did, he pretty much just cut off the Land Rover part of the drive shaft and then butted up where the CRV one was, and they just welded it and sent it, which would work. But, and then, you know, same thing on this side. They kind of just used the Land Rover ends here and then the CRV ends on that side. So really all we need to do is to incorporate this piece right here in the middle into this drive shaft somehow. I don't know how we're going to be able to do that. And the only reason I don't really want to use these support bearings is because they are kind of junk. These were off of a junkyard vehicle, so they are very rusty, and the bushings aren't the greatest. So yeah, I paid 50 bucks at the junkyard for this setup right here. I actually had to pull it off the vehicle myself, so I was under there getting these bolts off of the frame for the support bearings, and then I just took a Sawzall to the drive shaft because I could not get the bolts out of the rear end and the transfer case on the vehicle. So I had to just cut the drive shaft, which whatever. The drive shaft is already dented and banged up anyways. But I bet you it would have been a pretty close length comparatively to the CRV here. But like I said, I don't know. I think what I want to do is I want to just take this piece and that drive shaft and just be like, hey guys, take it to the drive shaft place that I go to all the time, because they are really good with drive shafts, and they might have seen this setup before and might be like, oh yeah, we can just take this, put it right into there, keep my same mounting position here, and I'll be all good to go. And all I would have to worry about is maybe clearancing the floor for this thing to fit. That would be like an ideal situation without having to use these bearings, but I might need these bearings because that would support this whole deal in the center here, because this guy is not really light. It's got some weight to it. So anyways, that is the plan, is we're going to try to install this guy, but I don't know how I'm going to go about it, like I was saying. So yeah, the stock CRV has one center support bearing in the middle, and then it has a slip yoke on this side, which I believe is the rear or the front, I don't remember. So this is just a, you know, I can slide forward and backward on this side, and this side I think is solid. So yeah, somehow got to incorporate all this together, but I don't know how I want to go about it, because I want to do this vehicle so it's like perfect, and I don't want to, I don't know. I'm just a little skeptical on the whole situation here and what I should all do or how to go about it. All right, so like I was saying, guys, we have a few different options here. The CRV actually comes with a set of holes for this spot and this spot. So there's two different spots where you can actually mount that center support bearing there. And obviously if we mounted that viscous coupler like farther forward, like up here maybe, it would clear, I would think, like closer up to the front where the transfer case is. If we mounted that viscous coupler like right in this area, I think it would clear with no issues, and then we can just run back the factory stuff all the way to back here, and then maybe utilize something in this area. I don't know, I'm spitballing at this point, just kind of giving you guys ideas. There is definitely ability to do this and maybe keep the complete stock rear section of the drive shaft intact, so we don't have to mess with the exhaust or anything like that, and then just change it from this mounting point forward, and then run the viscous coupler somewhere closer to the transfer case where we have all this room in the tunnel. So that is the idea. Yeah, this thing is going to be so much fun. I'm excited to get this done. I also do not understand how these viscous couplers work, at least the Land Rover one. I don't really get it, because if I spin this drive shaft on this side, it spins this whole assembly as one unit. And if I try to hold this side and spin this side at the same time, you would think it would have a little bit of like slip or resistance to it, but it's just like a solid chunk of metal. I don't know. Supposedly, Pablo from SP Tuning was actually telling me that these are like a non-serviceable clutch pack style unit, and yeah, like you pretty much can't get into this thing unless you cut it open, which I feel like it would be really cool to cut one open and look at it, but I'm not gonna. So yeah, here's my rusty viscous coupler, and hopefully we'll be able to get this thing together soon and go mob up the roads with some horsepower and a turbo kit, hopefully very soon. Well, meanwhile, Christine's over here working on some carburetors. for a motorcycle.
Because I don't know what I'm doing. But what is this guy? Does he have to be at a
That's the
certain
idle
level?
adjustment. That just adjusts how high or low the idle is.
I've just been taking it out, so.
Yeah. Well, the problem with these old bikes, babe, is that this is from the 1980s. This is a 1981 Honda CM400. CM400C. Okay, well, that's what it is. The engine has 90 pounds of compression on each cylinder, and it's even. It's just old. And we just can't get it to run right. Maybe you guys have some insight. I don't know. Maybe Christine will be on more videos if you tell her how to fix her bike. Which we already cleaned the carburetors. We put different jets in it. We frickin' went through it, and the carbs seem okay, but the plugs are really rich. As you guys can see, they're pretty black. But it starts really hard, and it doesn't really stay running very well. And at low speed, it spits and sputters really bad. And then up top, if you're really wailing on it, it clears out. But like, you know, cruising around, light speed, stuff like that is really spit and sputtery. And I don't know if the coil is bad or if the coil is on its way out, maybe. We have a whole bucket of parts here that my buddy gave me. But yeah, so like we have an extra coil and stuff. We haven't tried that yet, but it's not really common on these things for the coils to fail, I don't believe. But we are just trying to slowly diagnose this thing and get it running good. So once the engine's running good, we're actually going to turn this bike into a cafe racer. So what that entails is we'll probably just put some straight handlebars on it, maybe lower the bike a little bit, and put a, you know, bob seat on, or I don't know what they call those seats, but they're like a flat seat. Just kind of like a cool little flat tracker bike. I think that'd be really cool. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we already went through the carbs. They're all clean. The jets are clean. I don't know if we have the wrong jets in it. It just sucks because there's not like any numbering on the jets. I don't know. It just runs like shit. I told her maybe we should just get an EFI kit for it. I don't know if they make an EFI kit for a dual carburetor setup. I'm sure they do, but I don't know. If anybody has any ideas, let us know. This is a couple other parts carburetors that we got as well. These are off other Honda style motorcycles of the same generation. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night and a better tomorrow. We'll see you later. Hopefully the CRV is ripping soon, and still waiting on the motor for the Civic. What's new?